Cleveland, Ohio, 2007. The city is faced with another killer. Citizens start to wonder as women start to go missing around the community. For 2 years, a foul stench assaulted the nostrils of all of those living in Mount Pleasant, a community in Ward 4 of Cleveland, Ohio. Residents blamed a sausage shop for the odor, but later found out that it was the sinister work of Anthony Sowell that was turning their stomachs. Hello, and welcome to Nearly Criminal. In this video, we're going over the harrowing tale of Anthony Sowell, a monster from Cleveland, Ohio who took the lives of at least 11 women. So sit back and relax because this one is interesting. Anthony Sowell was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. His mother, Claudia Gertrude Garrison, a single parent, had 6 other children who were raised alongside Anthony. 7 other children lived in the home as well. These children belonged to Anthony's sister, who died from an illness. As it always seems in cases like this, Anthony grew up in an abusive home. While not to excuse his actions by any means, this may help shed some light on what started Anthony down his heinous and twisted path. Leona Davis, one of Anthony's nieces, recounted the time Claudia made her strip down and then whipped her with electrical cords until blood erupted from the wounds. She wasn't an exception to the abuse, she was the rule. All of the children belonging to Sowell's sister suffered abuse, while all of the other children watched in horror. Davis also said that Anthony himself started to abuse her when Davis was only 10 years old. Davis said that not only did Anthony rape her, but other children of the household raped her as well. At age 18, Sowell joined the Marine Corps. He spent a year overseas, came back to the States, and then was ordered to go to Japan. During this time, Sowell received many accolades, including a Good Conduct Medal and 2 letters of recommendation. 4 years after his discharge from the Marine Corps, a woman who was 3 months pregnant at the time told police that while she was attempting to leave Sowell's home, he bound her hands and feet with a belt and gagged her with a rag. She told police that, quote, "He choked me real hard because my body started tingling. I thought I was going to die," end quote. Sowell was later charged with kidnapping and attempted rape. He later pled guilty to attempted rape and spent 15 years in prison, later being released in 2005. In 2007, more red flags started to pop up, but this time it was the neighbors that noticed them. Living off of unemployment benefits and selling scrap metal to survive, Sowell began to gain some attention after his neighbors complained to the health department of a foul odor. Another red flag being that Anthony frequented online dating services, where he was, quote, "a master looking for a submissive person to train," end quote. The strangest red flag to me was the fact that Anthony's girlfriend at the time, Lori Frazier, often complained about the smell of decaying bodies in the house. She was assured, however, that the smell was just coming from Sowell's stepmother. When Lori moved out, she said that the smell was just from Ray's sausage shop next door. Lori gave conflicting reports on when she actually moved out, but a friend did say that she stopped going to the Sowell's home sometime in 2008. And if this is true, this would be a year after the known killings started. Crystal Dozier, a 38-year-old woman from Cleveland, Ohio, her family referred to her as the responsible child, the one that you would depend on to watch the younger children of the household. She was a mother of 7. She was officially declared missing in June of 2007. An apparent cocaine user, Crystal unfortunately fit the description that Anthony Sowell would not stray from. Anthony Sowell was not a stranger to Crystal. In fact, Crystal accepted rides from Anthony Sowell on more than one occasion. After Crystal went missing, her family worked to bring her back to them. They hung flyers around the neighborhood in an attempt to garner some publicity, but the flyers started to mysteriously disappear, often in front of Anthony Sowell's home. Crystal is just one of the unfortunate victims of the Imperial Avenue killings. All victims were African American women between the ages of 25 and 53. They were all either very slender or morbidly obese. There were no outliers. All of the women were mothers. Sowell began to slip up when in September of 2009, he invited a Latundra Billups home for a drink. On September 22nd, she told police that after a few drinks, Sowell became angry and proceeded to hit and choke her, until ultimately raping her until she lost consciousness. A little over a month later, on October 29th, police arrived at his home with a search warrant, only to discover that he wasn't there. However, he was arrested 2 days later. After Sowell's arrest, this is when the investigations really began. It was discovered that Sowell hid 2 bodies in a shallow grave in his basement. 4 other women were discovered in crawl spaces on the 3rd floor. and upon digging in the backyard, investigators found the remains of 3 more bodies. With the inclusion of a human skull found inside of a bucket in the home, the total number of victims grew to 11. Most of the women were killed by strangulation, and others were killed by being gagged and bound. At the time of arrest, Sowell was 50 years old, and he said that he had lived in that home for 4 years, meaning he had been around those decaying bodies for 4 years. He was held on a $5 million bond, and his trial was set to begin on June 2nd, 2010, before being delayed several times to ultimately beginning a year later on June 6th, 2011. Sowell was charged with 11 counts of aggravated murder and 74 counts of rape, kidnapping, tampering of evidence, and abuse of a corpse. He pled not guilty by reason of insanity, but later changed his mind and his plea to a simple not guilty. He was later convicted on all but 2 counts, and on August 10th, jurors recommended the death penalty. On August 12th, 2011, Judge Dick Ambrose upheld the recommendation and sentenced Sowell to die. Sowell's execution date was slated for October 29th, 2012, a full 3 years since the original arrest was made. However, in March of that year, a motion for stay of execution was made and granted in April, pending final investigation of an appeal filed in November of 2011. With a new team of lawyers from the Public Defender's Office, an appeal was made to overturn the conviction and death penalty on 21 points, with the main 3 being that the lawyers claimed Sowell did not receive a fair trial due to the media coverage. They also claimed that the courtroom being made private was a violation of Sowell's Sixth Amendment right. The last major point that was made was stating that the public defenders that represented Sowell at the time did a poor job of counseling him, as they allowed him to plead not guilty instead of pleading guilty and preventing the death penalty. Note that the lawyers that are saying this are from the Public Defender's Office, and they're saying this about lawyers that were also from the Public Defender's Office. The state went on to basically throw away the first appeal, saying it had no merit, due to the fact that it was Sowell's own lawyers who repeatedly asked for a private trial, and stated that Sowell never denied his guilt, which only added to the heinous nature of his crimes. Multiple appeals were made after 2016, including in 2017 when the U.S. Supreme Court flat out chose not to hear from him. Appeals were further denied by the state of Ohio in 2018 and in 2020, until on February 8, 2021, Sowell died in a medical facility from an unspecified terminal illness. After Sowell's conviction in 2011, his former residence at 12205 Imperial Avenue was demolished by city orders, and in 2021, the Garden of 11 Angels Memorial was dedicated on the former Sowell property. This is an unfortunate example of the system failing those that needed help the most, with many of the victims being addicted to some sort of illicit substance, and 2 women reporting beatings or other abuse at the hands of Anthony Sowell before ultimately being ignored by police. One woman even reportedly saw a head sitting in Sowell's bathtub wrapped in plastic, before she escaped and was able to call police officers. Upon doing so, she was told that they were not able to take a statement over the phone and would instead require her to come down to the station to make a statement. Further, in September of 2009, 2 deputies went to the home of Anthony Sowell. Apparently, the smell that the residents had been reporting did not faze the deputies because still nothing was done. Lastly, paramedics actually allowed Sowell to ride in the back of an ambulance with one of his victims to the hospital. Unknown to them, surveillance footage actually caught Sowell taking pictures of the woman while standing over top of her. That's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you thought of this in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you have a case that you'd like to see uploaded to the channel, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, peace.